Welcome to another edition of the Baldy's Breakdown edition of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. This is the second half of my conversation with Brian Baldinger from last week. We had a discussion about what the Giants' offseason might look like, what some of their big decisions are going to be. I thought it was really good insight from Brian in terms of what he thinks the Giants should do. So here's my second half of the conversation with Brian Baldinger. Again, it's brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants, coming to you from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. All right, Baldy, let's look to the future here, and let's start with the big question, because the Giants obviously will have to go through a coaching search. Mike Kafka will be involved as the interim, obviously. A lot of names have been thrown out there. I'm not going to ask you to name names if you don't want to, but what would be the priority for you when you go about interviewing these coaches that you think should be most important as the Giants decide who's going to be the next head coach of their football team?
Well, the first thing I think that we should open this search up to is, I know Jaxson Dart's a young quarterback. You'd love to see, a Ben Johnson with your quarterback and develop him and break him up with bad habits, develop the good habits, and watch him grow the way Drake May has grown this year with Josh McDaniels, et cetera. But I think this job is very intriguing for any defensive-minded guy. When you can line up Brian Burns and Abdul and Dexter and some of the guys that are in place right now, I think it's attractive. Now, you can look at what Mike Macdonald's doing defensively. What you need here, John, honestly, is a guy that knows how to command a room, that has respect. Sometimes that's a new guy. Sometimes that's an established guy, like Mike Vrabel was an established coach. But Liam Cohen was a first-time coach. But he's got everybody's attention. The quarterback is playing better. He's and he's got the right defensive guy. Whatever they decided to do, that guy has got to be able to stand up in a room and just tell it like it is to all 53 players. And you've got to be able to motivate. You've had two great ones in New York, obviously with Parcells and, his group. But you need that firmness and toughness. Guys, there's just got to be that. You just got to establish that. And everybody's a little bit different. D'Amico Ryans is totally different than Mike Vrabel. So it's not necessarily the personality sometimes, but there is a command that you have to have. The first time I met Sean McVay, I'm like, I was blown away by just meeting him in a casual spot, going, that guy can stand in front of a room and talk to 53 people.
Yeah, and then I think, Boldy, the second question you ask, and you're right, I think that is the most important part, in finding that guy with those skills is sometimes, I think, easier said than done. And the next question has to be, what's your plan to develop the quarterback, right? Because if you get a guy like a Vrabel, let's say, well, he had Josh McDaniels, who I think is, I don't know if he's going to get another head coaching opportunity, but he's a really good offensive coordinator. So when you talk to these guys about how they're going to plan to develop Jaxson Dart, what are some of the things you're looking for that are important to you to make sure Dart continues to progress as an NFL player?
Well, I think it starts with protection. And how are you going to protect your quarterback? Like, if you look at Trevor Lawrence and the way that he's playing, right? He's never played like this, ever.
Nope.
But it starts with protection. And part of the protection, John, is a commitment to the run game. Like, if you watch what Caleb Williams is doing, there is a firm commitment to the run game with two backs. And they are interchangeable. They're almost a 50-50 balanced team. A lot of play action. Quarterback is under center. A lot of that kind of stuff from that style of offense. What Ben did with Detroit, but what Sam Darnold, what Kyle Shanahan is doing with Brock Purdy. They're under center a great deal. There is a huge commitment to the run game.
And also McVay with the Rams. They're doing it. Kubiak with the Seahawks. They're doing it too. And so are the Packers with Josh Jacobs. They're all doing it.
Everybody's going back under center, John.
Yeah,
it's
and the Eagles.
And I was talking to some guys in Seattle, the tight ends in this business. It's a tight end-driven league right now. 2 and 3 tight ends on almost every play. And so I started off this conversation by saying, what do I do? You got to protect your quarterback. One of the ways you protect him is you have tight ends that can block, tight ends that can receive, they can play multiple roles. They can line up in the slot if they have to against matchups, but they can come 3 tight ends at the line of scrimmage. The fullback is back in play in a lot of different places here, John. Like, we're seeing a return to a style of offense that we saw 15 or 20 years ago. And those teams are having a great deal of success. And the quarterback is getting hit less. He's making better decisions. Brock Purdy barely got touched last night. And when your quarterback can feel that, he's going to see the field a whole lot better, John.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you got to go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know, but Citizens does. Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
Baldy, we're seeing under center dropbacks without play action. When's the last time we've
Yes.
seen like
Kurt
3,
Warner.
5, and
Probably Kurt
7-step
Warner.
drops from under center?
Yeah, no, Kurt Warner used to drop straight back. He said he could see both sides like that. Like, no, I see the same thing right now. There is a return. It's come full circle from, because for a long stretch we had the West Coast offense, then we had the college offenses all coming in.
Yep.
4 wide receivers, empty sets, all this stuff, and quarterbacks are just getting shelled. And so defense coordinators are just attacking it with blitz zeros and all this stuff. I feel like it's coming. We're packing it back in, and we're protecting the quarterback, and we're taking these drops where the routes can get down the field. We're not throwing bubble screens like they do in college as a base part of our offense. There's a part for the quick game in this business, but on 3rd and 10, Giant fans don't want to watch a hitch screen. They don't want to see that,
No.
and most fan bases don't. They want to see you attack down the field and get 10 yards for the first down.
And Baldy, I think the Giants are equipped to play that way. I think Jaxson Dart has to work on playing under center. He hasn't done that a ton. I do think that's part of it. That's something he'll have to work on in the offseason if the Giants go in that direction. But they got 2 running backs that can play in Cam Scatterbo and Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
We'll see if Devin Singletary's back. Theo Johnson, he has to be more consistent, but he's shown the ability to block and catch.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they could use one more kind of like F-style athletic tight end. They don't really have that guy here necessarily. But I feel like, and especially if they can figure out a way to bring back Carmen Brasilla, we'll talk about that in a second, I feel like they are equipped to play that style if they want to go in that direction.
I agree. I think they can too. And, in the run game, when you have the 3 tight ends or a tackle and 2 tight ends, the way some teams do it, it forces the defense to defend another gap.
Right.
And so now a guy that, if you're running zone stretch and you're stretching it with that, you're now, okay, where's the fit? Where's the run fit going to be from the safety, backside linebacker? Who's coming to really fit those gaps right there? And it opens things up in the run game. And then the bootlegs, the play action passes off of it. We're seeing a ton of tight end delayed screens in this business. That everybody is running some version of it. We saw a kid last night in Jake Tongas. Like, this kid was a free agent. Nobody even knew who his name was. They let some tight end, and this kid, because he's gotten the opportunity to play, has now flourished in all phases of the game in San Francisco.
No question about it. All right, let's hit a couple of the big questions here, Baldy. Offensively, Jermaine Illuminor, a free agent. The Giants will have to make a decision on him. We talked about Marcus Bowe and how he's shown enough where you think, all right, maybe he can step in a right tackle and do a good job. But I think given where this offensive line has been over the last 10 years, it takes a lot of guts to let a guy like Illuminor out of the building, considering how well he has played. So what are your thoughts in terms of how the Giants should go about addressing that situation on the right side of the offense line with Illuminor being a free agent, and then Greg Van Roten, who knows if he's going to retire, if he wants to keep playing in his mid-30s?
Well, Van Roten, the way he played this year, it's going to make it hard to retire.
He's been great.
He played
great.
so consistent. And so they've had a lot of big spurts of offense, and he's been just so stable. But I feel like Marcus Bowe has to be given a chance to play. Now, I don't know if that's chasing any of these guys out of the room. You can't have enough offensive line depth. We know that. Yep. We've seen the Giants' offense completely fall apart when they've missed certain guys. But I feel like Marcus Bowe needs a chance to compete for a starting job. I don't know what position that is right now. Maybe it's right guard, But Jermaine Illuminor knows how to play the game. He is a very powerful man that knows how to play. He is the definition of he is extremely efficient in what he does, in his movement, his steps. Like, he doesn't get beat inside. There's just certain things that you're going to get from him. And so I don't want to get rid of good players up front. Even if you got to pay these guys, whatever the freight is. But at the same time, I don't want to steal reps from letting Marcus Bowe go out there and play. And you don't want to do that with a guy that can still play. And I'm not chasing Van Roten out or Runyon, either one of them. But I'm just saying, like, I want Marcus Bowe to have a chance to go compete for a job. You drafted this guy. I think he needs to play.
No, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a really tough decision to see how they decide to handle that. Another guy's a free agent on offense, Wando Robinson, Baldy. 1,000-yard year. We talked about him. He's played outside more this year. We know traditionally he's been more of a slot player. Your thoughts on how that might go? The Giants re-signed Darius Slayton last year. They have neighbors in the house already. But I think, adding another playmaker outside could be a priority in the offseason. We'll see what they do. So how do you think they handle the Robinson situation?
I would keep Wandale. And here's one of the reasons why is he's been healthy, he's been dependable. There are energy givers and energy takers. That kid is an energy giver. You just have to be anybody that's around Wandale. The smile's always on his face. There's a joy that he brings to the practice field, to the game field. He likes to play the game. Like, I think there's a role for Wandale in this offense. And really, the way offenses are right now, you almost have to play a variety of positions depending on matchups and who you're going up against. And Wandale's proven they can still win on the outside, even at his size. But he's a natural slot receiver. And I think there's a place for him. I think the quarterback trusts him. I'd like to see Wandale stay and extend it.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help. Make sense of your money with Citizens.
All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll kind of pose this to you as a general question, Baldy. We know they have talent on different levels of this defense, guys that can play. If you were to add something to this defense, where would you try to add, and where do you think you can try to get the most improvement to make a bigger impact on the unit as a whole?
Well, I know they addressed the safety position last year with Javon, but my safeties, you want your safeties to take the ball away. They just got to have more. They got to get their hands on footballs more than what I saw. So the safeties are so important because if you miss tackles at that position, you give up long runs. If you blow coverages or can't cover down the field, you give up big pass plays. I feel like the safety position still has to be looked at. They're hard to find in the draft. There's rarely, more than 3 or 4 in any draft. You got to go to free agency like they did last year. I look at the safety position, and honestly, I don't think you can have enough defensive line depth in this business. Darius Alexander looks like he's going to be a player to me. Dexter did not have a great season, but he's played better the last month of the season. He's made more impact right now. But I would put more resources into my defensive line. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Kayvon, but it's more than just pass rushers. You just need monsters inside, that you could play reduced fronts and just stop the run the way Seattle does right now, and good teams do.
No question about it. All right, Baldy. Appreciate the time as always. Any final thoughts here on the Giants as we have one game away and we head into 2026?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen in the coaching search, general manager situation. I don't know any of that, John. I know this. I feel like the Giants' job is an attractive job. Like, I think they can attract a good candidate. I think the way, I'm sure like when Liam Cohen was looking last year, he wasn't going to go to Jacksonville. They kind of convinced him once they made a switch in the front office. But, you see Trevor Lawrence and you're like, he's not broken, but he's not playing great. Jaxson Dart, I feel, is a real talent. And we're seeing Tyler Shuck right now with Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier in New Orleans, like, really flourish. I feel like Jaxson Dart has got great football in front of him. I'd like to see them build a really good team around him and let his talents flourish. But I feel like they have a lot of pieces that can make this a very attractive job. And I'd be surprised if they don't get a great candidate to come in.
Baldy, good stuff, my friend. Always a pleasure. Let's talk soon. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year, John. You bet. All the best, man.
Brian Baldinger on the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants, from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. For Brian Baldinger, I'm John Schmeelk for this Baldy Breakdown edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast.